Uncle Richard's penthouse gleamed under crystal chandeliers as Manhattan's financial elite gathered for his annual investment gala. 200 guests in designer suits celebrated another year of what Richard called exceptional portfolio performance, never knowing that their host's lifestyle was secretly funded by his poor government worker niece. At 29, I stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows wearing my standard government blazer, listening to Uncle Richard hold court beside his prized Monet. He'd perfected the art of transforming his struggling three-client investment firm into something that sounded like Goldman Sachs through carefully crafted stories and quarterly reports that bore no resemblance to reality. The Henderson acquisition netted us 40% returns, Richard explained to impressed investors. When you understand market psychology like we do, opportunities become obvious. What his audience didn't know was that Richard's Manhattan office lease, Hampton's house, and luxury cars were all maintained through monthly transfers I'd been quietly making for 4 years. My modest government salary, as Deputy Director of CIA Economic Intelligence, actually provided the $80,000 monthly payments that kept his fake success story afloat. Richard has such insight into global markets, gushed Mrs. Pemberton, whose pharmaceutical fortune impressed easily. Your international strategies must be fascinating. We focus on geopolitical analysis that traditional firms miss, Richard replied confidently. Currency fluctuations, trade dynamics, you have to think globally. I suppressed a laugh while reviewing the classified briefing I'd given that morning about Chinese currency manipulation affecting hundreds of billions in commerce. Richard's geopolitical analysis came from reading Bloomberg headlines, while my work involved coordinating with Treasury and briefing the president's economic team on threats to financial security. And your niece? Asked Mr. Davidson, noticing me near the windows. Does she work in finance too? Richard's confident expression shifted to embarrassed tolerance. Sarah works for the federal government. Administrative paperwork. Very different from what we do here. She couldn't handle Wall Street, Richard announced to his audience, voice carrying practiced condescension. The pressure, the competition, it takes special talent to thrive in high-stakes finance. The investors murmured sympathetic understanding while I mentally calculated how much of Richard's high-stakes lifestyle my CIA salary was currently supporting. His success existed entirely through my anonymous funding while he publicly dismissed my career as clerical failure. Poor government worker, Mr. Davidson added charitably. At least she has job security. My phone buzzed with a priority message. Classified emergency. Chinese cyber attack on Federal Reserve detected. Director requires immediate consultation. Secure transport en route. Work emails during social time? Richard noticed my phone. Government jobs never stop with filing emergencies, do they? The irony was suffocating. Richard's billion-dollar insights were publicly available market data, while my actual work prevented economic warfare that could crash global financial systems. Richard launched into his signature presentation about market predictions, using impressive charts that made his failing investment firm sound like a Wall Street powerhouse. His audience treated every word like financial gospel while servers refilled champagne glasses worth more than most families' monthly budgets. Superior returns require understanding information flow, Richard pontificated, gesturing toward market displays. We have sources others don't, insights into developments that move billions. His exclusive sources were Bloomberg terminal feeds that any college student could access. Meanwhile, my secure phone displayed increasingly urgent messages about Chinese cyber operations targeting U.S. banking infrastructure through sophisticated attacks my division had been tracking for months. Richard's international expertise consistently outperforms major indices, Mrs. Pemberton told newcomers. Such sophisticated understanding of global markets. Currency hedging, emerging opportunities, geopolitical risk. Most investors can't grasp these complexities, Richard agreed, warming to his favorite fabrication. I almost laughed. Richard's international portfolio consisted of 3 ETFs he'd bought after reading Forbes articles. My classified work involved tracking actual currency manipulation by foreign governments, monitoring illegal banking networks across continents, and preventing economic attacks that could destabilize entire regions. Sarah's government position must seem limited compared to this, observed Mr. Chin, whose tech fortune bought influence in investment circles. No real financial responsibility. Exactly, Richard nodded sympathetically in my direction. Government workers handle routine paperwork while we manage real money, real consequences. When my decisions affect millions in client assets, there's no room for error. My secure line buzzed again. POTUS briefing advanced to 2,100 hours. Chinese operation expanding beyond initial projections. Treasury Secretary standing by for joint assessment. Through the penthouse windows, I noticed government helicopters establishing security perimeters around Manhattan. The distinctive flight patterns of federal emergency protocols I'd helped design for financial infrastructure protection. Wealth management requires understanding human psychology, Richard continued to his captivated audience. Fear, greed, market sentiment drive trillion-dollar movements. What Richard didn't realize was that several guests were under federal investigation for financial crimes I'd helped build cases against. Mrs. Davidson's pharmaceutical company was being monitored for money laundering. Mr. Chen's investments involved sanctioned entities my division tracked through classified intelligence networks. Tell them about the Hong Kong opportunity, Mrs. Davidson suggested, unaware her company's overseas transactions were currently flagged in my classified reports. Confidential client matter, Richard demurred mysteriously. But certain geopolitical developments create exceptional arbitrage for those with proper intelligence. My phone rang with an encrypted call from CIA operations. Deputy Director Chin, black sedan downstairs, helicopter standing by. Emergency briefing with Director and National Security Council required immediately. The helicopters were getting closer, their sound beginning to penetrate the penthouse's soundproofing. Several guests moved toward windows while Richard tried maintaining his financial presentation despite the unusual evening developments. Military exercises? Mr. Pemberton suggested, pointing at aircraft. Probably diplomatic events, Richard dismissed, attempting to regain attention. As I was explaining about market psychology, a man in a dark suit appeared at the penthouse entrance, showing credentials to Richard's doorman. Even across the elegant room, I recognized the distinctive CIA security badge that meant serious operational business. Ms. Chen, we need immediate departure, the CIA agent announced, his voice carrying the authority of federal emergency protocols. The situation has exceeded containment parameters. 200 Manhattan financial elite turned to stare while Richard's confident market commentary died mid-sentence. His face showed genuine confusion as he tried reconciling his poor government worker niece with federal agents requesting urgent transport. There's been a mistake, Richard stammered to his guests. Sarah handles basic administration. She files government paperwork. The agent consulted his secure tablet with professional efficiency. Deputy Director Sarah Chin, Economic Intelligence Division, Central Intelligence Agency. Highest level security clearance for financial intelligence operations. Confirmed, I replied. Mrs. Pemberton's champagne shattered on marble flooring. Deputy Director of CIA? Economic Intelligence Division? Mr. Davidson repeated as if the words were foreign language. The agent's earpiece crackled with encrypted communications before he addressed Richard's stunned gathering. Ladies and gentlemen, Deputy Director Chin is required for emergency National Security Council briefing regarding coordinated attacks on U.S. financial infrastructure. Richard collapsed into his leather chair, expensive tan draining from his face. Sarah, you said you worked in government administration. I administer economic intelligence operations preventing foreign attacks on American financial systems, I explained calmly to the room of people who'd dismissed my career as clerical work. Ma'am, the CIA director is standing by, the agent said urgently. Chinese cyber operations have successfully penetrated Federal Reserve systems. We need your threat assessment for presidential response coordination. I nodded, then addressed my uncle and his wealthy friends directly. Richard, those exceptional returns you've been reporting to investors? They're funded entirely through monthly payments from my CIA salary that you've been receiving for 4 years. Richard's practiced confidence shattered completely. Your Manhattan office, Hampton's estate, luxury lifestyle, all maintained through anonymous transfers from my government paycheck while you told people I couldn't handle Wall Street pressure. Mrs. Pemberton made choking sounds while guests exchanged horrified glances. My routine paperwork includes preventing foreign governments from crashing U.S. markets, coordinating Treasury responses to economic warfare, and briefing the president on financial threats affecting global stability, I continued. Tonight's emergency involves Chinese attacks that could collapse major banking systems. The agent's device buzzed with priority alerts. Deputy Director, Federal Reserve Chairman requests immediate consultation. Marine helicopter standing by for Langley transport. 8 months later, I stood in the CIA Director's office receiving the Intelligence Medal of Merit for preventing what analysts confirmed would have been the most devastating economic attack in American history. The Chinese cyber operation we stopped that night had targeted core banking systems processing trillions in daily global transactions. Richard never attempted contact again. His investment firm quietly dissolved when investors discovered his actual performance records versus reported returns. The penthouse was sold, the Hamptons house foreclosed, and his carefully constructed financial facade collapsed without my anonymous support. Local financial media reported on several fraud investigations stemming from Richard's Gala guest list. Mrs. Davidson's pharmaceutical empire faced money laundering charges. Mr. Chen's tech investments were frozen due to sanctions violations. The entire social circle that had dismissed my poor government work found themselves under federal scrutiny for various financial crimes my intelligence work had helped expose. My secure line buzzed with a priority message from the Treasury Secretary. Russian banking networks showing coordinated suspicious activity. Presidential briefing required this afternoon. Can you lead the assessment? I had real work protecting American economic security, far more important than family social hierarchies or Manhattan investment theater. The people who'd spent years treating me as a disappointment had learned too late that dismissing someone's capabilities based on assumptions rather than understanding could have serious consequences. Richard's monthly allowance had permanently ended the night his poor government worker niece revealed her actual authority over matters of national financial security. Perfect justice, delivered at classified clearance levels while preventing economic warfare. Their trust fund facade had indeed needed new intelligence. Unfortunately, they'd lost access to their only reliable source.